Why do we want more? Why, in the face of the endless toil and unceasing yearning that tugs at the heart of all existence, do we continue to chase, to hunger, to grasp, to strive? Why do we cling to what slips away, to what is always just beyond our reach? The answer lies not in the fire of ambition, nor in the glow of hope. It lies in the silence between breaths, in the hollow hum of our desire itself. It is a question that betrays the very essence of our nature. We are creatures bound to want, to seek, and yet never to be fulfilled. For desire, once sated, births itself again, unrelenting, insatiable, merciless. We seek what we do not have, believing that the acquisition of that thing will somehow still the tumult within us. But what is this tumult, if not the very essence of our being, a being that cannot rest, not in comfort, not in riches, nor in the fleeting touch of pleasure? Desire is a disease of the soul, an endless ache born of the belief that something, anything, will fill the void inside us. But what if the void is the truth? What if, in the end, there is no fulfillment, no completion, only the pursuit itself, spiraling like an endless river of illusion? This desire we speak of is the fundamental lie. It is a mirage that stands before us, ever distant, offering a promise of relief, yet always vanishing before we can reach it. In our haste, we grasp at every illusion that flickers before our eyes, believing that each new thing, each new experience, each new possession will somehow ease the gnawing hunger in our hearts. But even as we grasp, the hunger grows, not fades. We seek satisfaction, but it slips through our fingers, like water running over the edge of a cliff, vanishing into the abyss below. But who are we to speak of this hunger as something wrong? Who are we to condemn the will for its ceaseless striving, its endless craving? The truth is, this hunger is not a mistake. It is not something to be fixed, for it is the essence of what we are. We are born of desire, shaped by it, and we die in pursuit of it. But the pursuit is a paradox, a cruel joke played upon us by existence itself. The more we seek, the less we find. The more we desire, the more distant satisfaction becomes. This is not failure. It is the nature of the world, the nature of the will, and perhaps this is the most bitter truth of all. There is no escape from this dance. It is not in the things we desire that we will find peace, nor in the achievements we believe will make us whole. These are but fleeting shadows cast upon the walls of our own delusion. We seek to fill a cup that has no bottom. We reach for the horizon, believing that one day, just beyond the grasp of our fingers, we will find what we seek. But the horizon moves ever further away as we advance, and the cup grows deeper the more we pour into it. We are haunted by the illusion that something lies beyond us, something that, if we could only attain it, would give our lives meaning. But this is a cruel trick of the mind, a cruel trick of the world. The search for meaning outside of ourselves only deepens our misery, for meaning does not lie in the external. It is not to be found in the world of appearances, in the realm of things that pass, but in the cold, silent truth that lies beyond them. The truth of our own nature, the truth of our suffering, the truth of our will and its endless striving. Perhaps in moments of stillness we catch a fleeting glimpse of this truth, but in our restlessness we cannot bear to remain with it. We turn away, grasping for something, anything, to fill the aching void. And yet the void is all there is. The void is not something to be feared, nor something to be filled, but something to be known. To know the void is to know the truth of the self. To sit with the emptiness, the unfulfilled desire, is to encounter the soul in its purest form, stripped of illusion, naked before its own nature. For we are not meant to fill the void. We are meant to understand it, to gaze into it without fear, without the need to flee. For in the end, the void is not a punishment. It is the very ground of being, the source from which we arise and to which we return. The more we seek to avoid it, the more it consumes us. But when we stop, when we cease the chase and turn inward, we discover that the void is not empty at all. It is full of the truth we have long avoided. And in that fullness, we find the peace we have sought all along, not in acquisition, but in surrender. Surrender, then, not to the will's unceasing striving, but to the stillness, that lies at the heart of it. Surrender to the truth that nothing in this world can ever truly satisfy. For satisfaction itself is an illusion. To know this, to truly know it, is to be free. Free not from suffering, but from the lie that suffering is something to escape. For suffering is the very pulse of existence, the beat of the heart that knows no rest. But in surrender, we come to understand that there is no need for rest, for there is no goal to reach, no end to the race. There is only the endless becoming, the endless unfolding of the will and the quiet surrender to its eternal march. And so we cease, not in triumph, not in relief, but in the quiet resignation to what is. The hunger fades, not because it has been satisfied, but because we have come to see it for what it is, a flicker in the vast, eternal night. And in that night, we find peace. Not the peace of fulfillment, but the peace of knowing that the search, the striving, the desire, all of it is a dance with nothingness. A dance in which we are both the dancer and the dance itself. And so, we surrender to the truth, not as a final resolution, but as an understanding. We cease to search, not because we have found, but because the very search is the answer. And in this, we are free not from suffering, but from the illusion that there is anything to seek beyond the self. The self, in all its hunger and longing, is the only truth we will ever find. And when we know this, we know enough. And so we dwell in this stillness, in the very heart of our own ceaseless struggle, knowing that we are bound to this sorrow, not as a burden to be discarded, but as the essential nature of our existence. For suffering, in its purest form, is not something imposed upon us by the world, but something we inherit in our very being. It is not a passing affliction, a temporary state, but the constant backdrop of our lives, the silent hum beneath the clamor of our desires. To wish for the cessation of suffering is to wish for the cessation of life itself, for life is suffering, and suffering is life. They are not two separate things, but one and the same, a seamless continuum that moves through us, shaping us, making us who we are. In the quiet corners of our existence, we know this. We know, though we may not admit it, that the world will never deliver us from this anguish. No attainment, no success, no pleasure can erase the dark mark of suffering that lies upon the soul. The more we strive for these things, the more we set ourselves upon the wheel of desire, the more we entrench ourselves in the very thing we wish to escape. The desire for relief is itself a source of pain. It is the constant chase, the endless reaching that keeps the wound fresh. We have been taught in every corner of our lives that to want is to suffer, and to have is to find peace. But it is a lie, a delusion that perpetuates itself. The moment we acquire what we want, we are already looking to the next desire. The moment we touch satisfaction, we feel its grip loosening, and the emptiness creeps in once more. We are caught in a never-ending loop, and there is no escape. This is not some great cosmic joke, but a truth as ancient as the stars themselves. To desire is to suffer, and the more we desire, the more we must suffer. The world of appearances, the world of things, is a carnival of distractions, each one promising relief, each one promising salvation, but none of them delivering, for they are fleeting, ephemeral, as hollow as the promises they make. They are but shadows on the wall, and we, like the prisoner of Plato's cave, chase after them, believing that they are all that exists. But there is something else, something deeper beneath the surface of these illusions. And it is in the confrontation with this deeper truth that the soul begins its slow, painful awakening. The truth that the world we perceive is not the world as it is, but a reflection, a projection of our own desires, fears, and longings. The world does not give us what we want. It gives us what we need, not what we need to fulfill our desires, but what we need to confront the truth of our existence. The suffering we experience is not a punishment, but a mirror, reflecting back to us our own nature. It is a call to awareness, a beckoning toward the recognition that we are not the masters of the world, but its children born of it, shaped by it, and ultimately bound to it in ways we cannot understand. And in this recognition, we come to understand that all our striving, all our effort, all our desire is ultimately futile. It is not that we should abandon our striving, but that we must recognize its futility, its inherent emptiness. The futility of the will is not a source of despair, but a source of clarity. To know that our desires can never be fully realized is to know the truth of what we are beings, trapped in the cycle of endless becoming, always moving, always seeking, but never arriving. The more we understand this, the more we are freed from the tyranny of our own desires. And in that freedom there is peace, but not the peace of fulfillment, no, it is the peace that comes from knowing that there is no fulfillment, and never will be. For fulfillment is a myth. It is the great lie we have been taught to chase, the carrot dangling just beyond our reach, always in motion, always evading us. Fulfillment is not something to be attained, but something to be let go of. The moment we stop chasing, the moment we cease to grasp, we come face to face with the truth of our existence, and in that truth we find the quietest, most profound release. Not a release from suffering, for suffering is inevitable, but a release from the illusion that we can escape it. Suffering is not something to be conquered, but something to be understood. And in understanding it, we cease to resist it. The resistance is the suffering. The desire to escape, to run, to reach for something else, is the root of all our pain. To cease resisting is to surrender to the truth of what is. To accept that the world is as it is, and we are as we are. And in this acceptance, there is a strange, subtle release. A release that does not come from the world, but from within ourselves. For the world will never change. It will never give us what we want. It will never deliver us from our suffering. But in the quiet recognition that there is nothing more to seek, nothing more to want, we come to know the peace of simply being. Being not as an achievement, but as a surrender to the truth of our own limitations. This, then, is the cruel beauty of existence, that we, in our eternal striving, in our endless pursuit of more, have already found what we seek. It lies not in the acquisition, not in the attainment, but in the very realization that there is nothing to acquire, nothing to attain. And in this realization, we find not triumph, but liberation. Liberation not from the world, but from our own will. The will that pushes us ever forward, ever onward into the unknown. The will that binds us to this endless cycle of desire and suffering. But in the moment we cease to will, we cease to suffer. And thus we are free, not free from suffering, but free from the delusion that suffering is something to escape. Free from the delusion that there is something beyond this moment, beyond this truth that will bring us peace. The peace is already here, in the quiet acceptance of what is, in the surrender to the eternal dance of becoming and ceasing, of desiring and letting go. It is in the stillness that comes when we stop striving, when we stop seeking, when we stop wanting. The stillness is the only truth, the only peace, and it is not a peace of the world, but a peace that transcends it. It is the peace that comes when we stop searching for the end and simply rest in the middle of it all. And in that rest, we find the most profound release of all, not from suffering, but from the endless grasping that makes suffering seem unbearable. The endless grasping is the true agony, the true torment. But when we cease, when we finally stop and allow the truth to unfold, we come to understand that all is as it should be. And in that understanding, there is a quiet joy, not a joy of possession, not a joy of attainment, but a joy of knowing that there is nothing left to gain, that we are already complete in our emptiness. And so we are silent, silent in the face of all that is, all that ever was, and all that ever will be. Silent in the face of the world's endless desire and in the face of our own. Silent in the face of our own suffering and in the face of our own peace. For in silence there is truth, and in truth there is nothing more to want. And so we dwell in silence. For silence is the birthplace of understanding. It is the silence between words, the space between breaths, where the truth of our nature is laid bare. In our endless noise, our clamor for attention, for affirmation, for validation, we drown out the one voice that speaks the most clearly, the voice of the self, the voice of our own suffering, the voice of our own truth. We search the world for meaning, for solace, for the balm that will heal the deep wound within us. Yet all the while, the very meaning, the very balm lies in the stillness, in the acknowledgement of what is. What is this silence that we seek to avoid, this void we so desperately flee from? It is the absence of the noise of the will, the absence of the ceaseless striving that fills our days with restless urgency. It is not an emptiness to be feared, for in that emptiness there is no hunger, no longing, no discontent. It is a peace that does not arise from the world, but from within the peace that comes when we cease to seek, when we cease to will, when we finally surrender to the inevitability of what is. But we cannot bear this peace, not yet. We are creatures of desire, and desire propels us, drives us onward, ever onward, towards a distant, imagined goal that we will never reach. We are forever in pursuit, and the pursuit itself is both the source of our meaning and the cause of our misery. The mind cannot rest, for it is a prisoner of its own desires. We turn over in our minds what we lack, what we want, what we feel is missing, and we labor under the illusion that if only we acquire it, this thing, this moment, this achievement, we will finally be whole. But this is the cruelty of our condition. The more we acquire, the more we lack. And the more we lack, the more we strive. And yet, this striving, this hunger, is not born of failure. It is not born of some flaw in our nature. No, it is the very fabric of what we are. We are beings of will, beings whose essence is defined by the ceaseless drive for more. This drive is not our enemy, but our nature, and it cannot be extinguished, nor can it be fulfilled. To strive, to reach, to desire, these are not aberrations of the human condition, but the condition itself. The world does not tell us to desire. The world is simply the reflection of our desire, the manifestation of our will. We are so deeply entangled in the web of our own desires that we do not even know we are caught. We are like a fish, struggling for air in a sea we cannot see, and we cannot see it because the sea is us. We are creatures of the world, and the world is nothing but the reflection of our will, our inner restless craving. The world does not change to meet our desires. Our desires shape the world, create it, mold it into the image of our longing. The more we crave, the more the world appears to offer, but this is an illusion. The world does not give us anything. It simply mirrors the infinite, unrelenting churn of our own will. And yet, we persist. We seek out distractions, we cling to objects, we chase after goals, and we find no peace. For the more we have, the more we desire. The more we achieve, the more we yearn. It is as if we are caught in a whirlpool of our own making, spiraling downward, ever deeper, until we lose sight of the surface altogether. And what is at the bottom of this whirlpool? What is the end of this pursuit? The answer is not peace, nor fulfillment, nor resolution. No, the answer is simply more. The answer is simply the next desire, the next craving, the next hunger. There is no end to it. In this realization, we come to a strange clarity, for we have always sought the end, the resolution, the final answer to our suffering. But there is no end, there is no answer, only the ceaseless unfolding of desire, and the endless return to the same place, the same hunger, the same longing. We are like the wind, blowing here and there, forever moving, but never arriving, never coming to rest. We are not meant to arrive. We are meant to drift, to be carried by the current of the will, to surrender to the ebb and flow of existence itself. And in this surrender, there is a kind of freedom, not freedom from suffering, but freedom from the belief that suffering must end. The belief that we can end suffering, that we can conquer it, that we can escape it, is the very source of our misery. We are not here to escape suffering. We are here to know it, to understand it, and in understanding it, to transcend it. Not to transcend it by some grand victory over the forces of the world, but to transcend it by accepting its inevitability, by embracing it as part of the whole. Suffering is not a mistake, nor is it a punishment. It is the very essence of our existence, the raw material from which we are made. But this is not a resignation to despair. No, it is an awakening to the truth. It is an awakening to the realization that we are not meant to find escape, but to find understanding. The more we try to escape, the more tightly we bind ourselves to the very thing we wish to avoid. And so, we must stop struggling. We must stop seeking the end. There is no end. There is only the moment, and the moment is all we have. In the silence of this moment, we are free, not from suffering, but from the need to escape it. And in this freedom, there is a strange release. We no longer seek, no longer chase, no longer strain. We are simply present in the midst of our desires, in the midst of our suffering, in the midst of everything that is. And in that presence, there is a peace, but it is not the peace of resolution. It is the peace of knowing that resolution is not possible, and that is enough. We have lived our lives chasing after something that does not exist. We have lived our lives believing that there is something to be gained, something to be won, something to be attained, but there is nothing. There is only the eternal cycle of desire, the eternal dance of will and suffering, of striving and releasing. The peace we seek is not a peace of resolution, but a peace of understanding. Understanding that there is nothing to resolve, nothing to fix, nothing to escape. There is only the dance, and we are the dancers. And so we stop. We stop chasing, we stop seeking, we stop striving. And in that moment of stillness, we are free. Free not from the world, not from suffering, but free from the lie that there is something to be attained. Free from the illusion that the next desire will bring us peace. Peace is already here, in the quiet acceptance of what is. Peace is in the stillness that comes when we stop reaching, when we stop fighting, when we stop desiring. And in that peace, we find something far deeper than fulfillment. We find the truth that all we seek is already here, in the quiet, in the emptiness, in the surrender to what is. And in this surrender, we find the ultimate release, the release from the tyranny of the will, the release from the burden of desire, the release from the endless cycle of striving. Not as a final victory, but as the quiet recognition that there is nothing more to do, there is nothing more to seek, there is only being, and in being there is peace. Peace not because it is something we have found, but because it is something we have let go of. Peace because we have stopped chasing the impossible, and in that stillness we are finally free. And in that stillness we come to know something profound, something that lies not beyond us, not outside of us, but in the very heart of our own being. This is not the peace of triumph or of success. It is not the peace that arises from any external attainment or from the soothing of desires. No, this peace is born from the quiet, unspoken truth that there is nothing to attain, nothing to possess, nothing to become, for in the moment we cease to strive, we cease to be lost. The world, in all its relentless chaos, with its promises of fulfillment, is but a reflection of the will that drives us. It is a projection, a shadow cast upon the walls of our consciousness. We chase after its illusions, believing that they can deliver us from our suffering. But the truth is that the world will never give us what we seek. It will never provide the relief we imagine, for it is not made for our satisfaction. The world is simply a mirror that reflects the endless cravings of our heart, but does not satisfy them. And yet, in the quiet awareness of this, we find a freedom that is not of this world. This freedom is not an escape. It is not the freedom of movement, of choice, of action. It is the freedom of stillness, the freedom that arises when we surrender to the endless becoming of the will, when we stop resisting, when we cease to demand that life give us something more. We do not find freedom by conquering the world, but by letting the world be as it is. We do not find peace by running from suffering, but by understanding that suffering is the very essence of our existence. It is not to be avoided or denied. It is to be embraced not in resignation, but in the understanding that it is not separate from us, not something to overcome, but something we are. We are not separate from the world. We are not separate from the pain, the longing, the suffering. These are not foreign to us. They are the very substance of our being. And in this understanding, we dissolve the illusion of distance between ourselves and the world. We are not on the outside, looking in. We are not observers of life. We are life. We are the will, pulsing and striving, ever reaching, ever wanting. And yet, this very will that propels us forward, that drives us ever onward, is itself the source of our bondage. To awaken to this truth is not to be freed from suffering, but to be freed from the illusion of control. It is to see that the world does not bend to our will, nor will it ever. The world is not a tool to be used. It is not something we can mold to our desires. And in this recognition, we cease to resist it. We cease to struggle against it. We cease to wish for things to be other than they are. In the face of the world's inexorable march, we stop. We stop wanting. We stop desiring. We stop reaching. And in this stopping, in this surrender, we come to know something unexpected, a deep, abiding peace. Not a peace of acquisition, but a peace of relinquishment. Not a peace born of obtaining, but a peace born of letting go. We let go of the need to conquer, to possess, to become. And in this letting go, we find that the very thing we sought all along was never to be found in the world, but in the stillness that arises when we cease to strive. The peace is not in the things we desire, but in the cessation of desire itself. In that cessation, we are not empty. We are full. Full of the truth that has always been. Full of the wisdom that lies beyond the veil of illusion. This truth is not the truth of the mind, not the truth of reason or logic. It is a deeper truth, the truth of the heart, the truth that lies in the surrender to what is. And in this surrender, we are free not from suffering, but from the illusion that suffering is something to escape. And so, we remain, not as seekers, not as wanderers, not as those who chase the horizon, but as those who are present, here, in the moment, in the now. We remain not in pursuit of an end, but in the quiet acceptance of the journey itself. We do not know where we are going. We do not know where we have been. We only know that we are here, and that here is enough. Here, in the midst of it all, we are whole, because we have ceased to seek wholeness. We are complete, because we have stopped trying to complete ourselves. This is the strange comfort of truth, that it is not something to grasp, not something to possess, but something to recognize, to acknowledge, to accept. The truth is not hidden from us. It is not locked away in some distant place. It is here, always here, in the depths of our being, waiting to be seen, waiting to be known. And when we stop, when we cease our endless striving, we see it not with the eyes, but with the heart. And in that seeing, there is no longer any distance between us and the world. We are not separate. We are not apart. We are one with it, one with the suffering, one with the will, one with the endless becoming that is both our burden and our freedom. And in that unity, there is no more need to grasp, no more need to reach, no more need to seek. For the seeking itself is the suffering, the reaching itself is the pain, the striving itself is the lie. But when we stop, when we rest in the quiet truth of what is, we find that the very act of being is enough. Not enough in the sense that we have obtained something, but enough in the sense that there is nothing more to obtain. And so we remain in the silence, in the stillness, in the peace that comes not from the end of the journey, but from the surrender to the journey itself. For in the end, there is no destination, there is no end to be reached. There is only the eternal unfolding of the will and the eternal surrender to it. And in that surrender, we are free. Free not from suffering, but free from the illusion that there is something to escape. Free to be, simply to be, in the midst of it all, in the quiet, endless becoming. Free to rest in the truth that there is nothing more to want. And in that truth, there is peace. A peace that has never left us, but that we have only just begun to understand.